This was one of the worst famines in human history. Grain existed, ships were sailing, warehouses were full, and yet millions still died. By the time the world noticed, over 3 million people were already dead, not from drought, not from war damage, but from decisions made in air-conditioned offices thousands of miles away. This is the story of how Britain starved India without firing a single bullet. In 1943, Bengal was one of the richest agricultural regions in the world. Rice fields stretched to the horizon, granaries were full. India, at the time, was actually exporting food to support Britain's war effort. Then the famine began. But here's the part most people never hear. There was no real food shortage. Ships carrying grain passed right by Indian ports, heading to Europe. Warehouses were locked. Prices were allowed to skyrocket. And food was deliberately moved out of starving regions to protect British military reserves. As millions began collapsing in the streets, British officials blamed overpopulation, poor Indians, and even said the famine was exaggerated. In London, Winston Churchill was informed, again and again, that people were dying by the thousands every day. His response? He asked why Gandhi hadn't died yet. British policy at the time followed something called denial strategy. The idea was simple. If Japan invaded India, they shouldn't find food. So the British ordered rice to be seized or destroyed in coastal regions. Boats were confiscated. Transport was crippled. Farmers couldn't move food even if they had it. Then came speculation. The British refused to cap food prices. Traders hoarded grain. Prices exploded overnight. A bag of rice that once fed a family for a month now cost more than a laborer earned in weeks. The poor didn't starve slowly. They vanished, corpses lining railway platforms while trains loaded with grain rolled past. Local Indian officials begged for emergency imports. Britain refused. Australia offered wheat. Britain blocked it. Canada offered ships. Britain redirected them. Even when reserves existed, Britain chose to stockpile food in Europe, just in case, while Bengal burned through human lives. By late 1943, the streets of Calcutta were described as silent, not because people were calm, but because the starving no longer had the strength to cry. Dogs fed on bodies. So did vultures. British reports later described the famine as unfortunate but unavoidable. But internal documents told a different story. They showed food was available, ships were available, relief was possible. It just wasn't prioritized. When the famine finally ended, it wasn't because Britain changed course. It ended because the dead had already done the math. Over 3 million lives lost, not to nature, but to imperial calculation. No mass graves were shown to the world. No trials followed. No apology was ever formally issued. History remembers empires for railways and administration. But in Bengal, history remembers empty bowls and full ships sailing away.